What's up guys, my name is Cherno. Happy New Year, welcome back to the Game Engine series. Who's excited to be here? Raise your hand. Okay, class. Good, you're all here, let's begin. So last time, we embarked on the adventure of creating a game called Face Run for some reason, featuring this image of me, which we won't talk about. And basically what it's going to be is some sort of like puzzle game-ish, where it's like a physics-based thing. You have to build things to get from one side of the level to another. So like you start here and then like these maybe wouldn't exist and you have to place them there, and it's like inspired by this thing I used to play called Armadillo Run. Thank you Vague Lobster for the tier 3 sub and 29 months of subscribing. Really appreciate the support. Peter, thank you for your tier 1 sub, a little bit weak but understandable, and 19 months, still very impressive. Wink if this isn't recorded. Well, I just read your chat message, so I don't think I need to wink. Alright, so basically, like, yeah, for those of you who don't know, we're actually making a little bit of a game using Hazel 2D here. And the reason why we're doing that is kind of to test out like the engine, to add features that we don't otherwise have. And by add features, I don't mean anything groundbreaking, although we will probably have to add some major features. I'm more talking about like filling in the gaps, right? So it's a fun way for us to kind of, you know, make sure we have the basics down really well so that we can actually physically, you know, make this game, because it's a little bit better than just trying to brainstorm every single feature and just implement it without actually having like a good test for the engine in the form of an actual project. So that's why this kind of exists, and that's why we're doing this stuff. Domi, thank you. Thank you for the 4 months of subbing as well. I appreciate the support. So yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. And again, this game, like, I don't know, like we're gonna probably, like, I want to kind of have most of it done in like a couple months maybe. Like I don't want to spend too much. Audio's a bit low compared to music, is it? I can probably boost it up a little bit, but I might just lower the music. Alright. Music should be quiet, or maybe I can lower it here as well. Well, the music's like stopped now, so. But yeah, so that's kind of what's going on. Yeah, so kind of like a couple months is kind of like the timeline for this. I don't want to spend like all day on this. That's a figure of speech because it's going to take months. But I don't want to spend all year on this, is probably more accurate to say. So that's kind of the plan. And like if we don't get very far, we don't get very far. But I'm going to try my best to kind of rapidly develop this whilst also rapidly developing the engine features. So if we open up like the project, I don't think I'm actually committing like the project anywhere. Where did I? Yeah, so Face Run, I will commit the actual Face Run project. So the other kind of cool thing about this, I guess, is that it actually is like a separate project, right? So this isn't like, you know, part of like the sandbox project. Like we literally, we literally have like, you know, it's like a separate project file in a separate directory that's separate to the repository. So it's completely like a simulation of actually making something. And you can see if we launch Hazel without a project, it will ask us to open something. We can open like this specific project, and everything, like, you know, the assets and everything, they're all relative to this kind of directory. And so it really is like an example of like a standalone project inside Hazel, which is pretty cool because it's the first time we've done this in the Game Engine series and in Hazel 2D. So what I want to do, you know, from here is just kind of I'm gonna try and like remember exactly how I like left off all of this stuff, because like again, last year I think we had the last stream, I don't know when it was, like December like 17th ish, something around there, maybe 18th. Drishdan, thank you for the Prime sub as well. I don't know what time it is for you, but good morning. It's like 7, it's almost 8 p.m. so yeah, good morning to you, I guess, and good evening to me. So I think, yeah, that's right. I think what we were doing last time was, I think we scripted it so that the zoom level of the camera would kind of be dependent on the velocity of the player. So you can see it kind of zooms in when you move slower, but it's not very, it's kind of lerping in a little bit, but like it is still kind of rapid. So I guess what we should do is we should like design some kind of like, let's just kind of make the basic game loop. Oh, I think the major thing we stopped on last time actually was like, we realized we needed text rendering because we can't render text inside Hazel 2D. So we probably need to do that. Oof. Okay. Let's do text rendering. Let's get the roadmap up. Yeah, we're gonna have to do some text rendering very soon. Just because, like, you know, I mean, if you think about it, the way we wanted to kind of make this game is, since it is kind of like a building game in a way, like you need to build a path, like, you know, to get to like the finish, which let's just say is this thing here. Like, you're gonna have to probably, like in Armadillo Run, which is kind of the inspiration for this game, you know, you're probably going to have like different tools, like different types of platforms. Maybe some of them are bouncy, maybe some of them are not bouncy, like some of them are more rigid, maybe some of them are like cloth or something, I don't know. The point is, you're gonna have all these different like materials you can use, and then they're also gonna have like, you know, well, they're gonna have names which needs to be rendered as like text or whatever, and then they're also gonna have like, you know, prices associated with them. You need like a budget, maybe kind of like an Armadillo Run, so maybe you have like, I don't know, like $100 or something to like complete this level. And then you get like a bunch of materials here, and like there's obviously going to have to be text. I mean, even if you didn't have this, you'd probably want that for like the main menu and stuff. But, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is, in this case, like, clearly the text is like a core part of the actual gameplay. So we're going to need to render text very soon. And probably part of that's going to be creating a UI library or some kind of like UI thing. We don't really need to create a UI like system. Technically, like Hazel 3D doesn't actually have a proper UI system, like, or what you would kind of fundamentally call, like, you know, or officially call like a UI system. However, because we can render text, and because we have like a C# API that's like competent enough, I guess, to do what we need, we can kind of just render, you know, we can kind of just create entities like in world space and then position them, you know, relative, like, you know, position them relative to the camera or whatever, so that we basically get the illusion of like having UI. Like, you can kind of build that almost in C#, and then just like, as long as you can actually physically render text, you can kind of do a lot of the layout calculations yourself. So it's not really a big deal. Like, I wouldn't say we need a UI system for this, and I'm probably not going to waste time making that. However, what we do need is obviously text rendering. So that's why I'm trying to find the roadmap here, which is hazelengine.com/roadmap. It's very bright. That's the Hazel 2D roadmap. So what I want to do is, yeah, so projects, like, we don't have, yeah, we've kind of deferred the new project UI, first game, make a game, and then, okay, so for this game then, let's add a little list here. Oh, I gotta, like, log in. Just quickly log in. Don't you just hate it when you don't, like, you take a break from, I don't know, your computer or something, and then you come back, and then you just logged out of everywhere? Worst, just first world problems. All right, so game, so face run. Let's move this guy to where we are, which is this. So this is what we're doing. So as part of this, so description, we're making a game to drive a small game to drive the development of, you know, of important features and to fill in the blanks. Okay, so like, as part of rendering, I had like texture outlets as animation. No, that's not really, I guess, UI text rendering. So I guess we'll kind of bring this up. Why is post-processing in UI? Is that post-processing for UI? Yeah. I don't know, but I think user interface, no, but that's user interface and like layouts. Okay, I think text rendering, okay, whatever. We'll leave it where it was, but I think what we'll do is, yeah, we'll just say like, you know, text rendering. So this is going to be like the first major feature. I think we're going to basically start on. Well, to be honest, that's so major that I think I'm just going to make a new list for it. Because that is actually going to be pretty major. And we can kind of plan it today. Like, I want to start on it next time. I think today's going to end up being like a little bit of a planning episode, and we're also going to hopefully work on the game a little bit. Because I'd like to do some other stuff in the game before we, you know, switch over to text rendering. Because otherwise it feels like we did like one episode on the game basically, and then suddenly we're working on engine systems again, which is obviously kind of to be expected because we are, like, at the end of the day, we are obviously building the engine. But yeah, it would be nice to probably do a little bit more game dev. So text rendering. Text rendering. Okay, so basically I think what we'll do with text rendering is, so we're gonna use, we're gonna do it in, like, we're gonna do the same thing we did for Hazel, for like Big Hazel, which is we're going to use sign distance field like text rendering. So the benefit of that is basically that we don't really care about text size, because we don't rasterize we don't rasterize like glyphs into pixels. Instead, we store them as sign distance fields so that we can actually like expand them and basically kind of almost rasterize them on the fly when they're rendered. And the really big benefit of that is that, again, we don't care about, there's no such thing as like a font size really. Because a big problem is that if you have normal text rendering, we'll talk about this probably more next episode, but if you have normal text rendering, the way it works is you'll have like, you know, say a TTF file or like an OTF file or whatever that basically stores like vector, you know, vector, like, how should I phrase this? It stores the glyphs in like a vector format. So basically you have like these mathematical expressions which kind of tell you, well, not really mathematical expressions, but like basically a bunch of math that defines certain curves and lines and stuff like that inside like for given text characters, for glyphs, right? And so what happens is obviously when we want to render them, we need to render them pixel by pixel. So what you might do is you might just take like that glyph and like the vector graphics behind it, and you might rasterize that into a bunch of pixels. But in order to rasterize pixels, you need to know the resolution of that glyph. And so it might be like 32 by 32 pixels. And that might be good for, you know, if you're trying to render something around that size. But if you're trying to render something really small, then you obviously have to scale that down. And that'll be, since that's like a texture, it gets scaled down using like the minification filter, which might just be like linear, you know, linear interpolation or whatever. And same with magnification. Like if you want to render it this big, you know, you'll have to magnify it, and because it's a texture, you either re-rasterize it again from that kind of math into like a bigger texture, and obviously you'd have like a texture atlas of all these glyphs, but you'd rasterize it larger, or you'd have to scale it up, but scaling it up using like a magnification filter is going to make it blurry, and like it's just a disaster. And like, I don't know, it's okay for UI usually because font sizes don't change that drastically, but for like games, especially for 3D, I know this is Hazel 2D, but like, you know, for 3D it's like a huge problem, because you can imagine like a character, you know, reading a sign, and if you wanted that sign to actually be like real text, you know, then you can kind of, if it's first person or third person or whatever, you can kind of walk up to it, it's going to get bigger. And like, what do you do then? It's just going to be all blurry. But if it's sign distance field, you can kind of scale it up and it just looks great. So that's what we do in Hazel 3D. And we'll talk about this more next week, I guess, when we probably start this project. But basically what I'm saying is I want to use that method rather than, you know, just reading like a font file and using something like, you know, well, you can use something like FreeType to read it. And FreeType can also like rasterize that for you, but we don't really want to do that, at least not in the basic way. So we'll use something called MSDF Gen, which is the library that we use in Hazel 3D as well. I'll leave a link to it inside this text rendering thing. And what's going to be the date next? So the 16th, I guess. So 16th of January. I guess I should add the year to this. Is when we'll kind of begin that. Yeah, let me just stop Nightbot, because that's just wrong. What is it? Info, right? Okay. Yep. Actually, Ludum Dare is like happening right now, isn't it? They decided to do a weird one in January. Or did it end already? I guess it ended. Or maybe not yet. Nah, it hasn't ended yet, has it? Starts to Tuesday. Yeah. So, yeah, actually, Ludum Dare is currently happening. It ends in 10 hours, but I don't think anyone's doing it because, I don't know, it just feels weird to do a Ludum Dare in January. And at the start of January as well. I'm looking through the Ludum Dare website now. But yeah, it's weird. Yeah, what's the theme? What do they say the theme is? Harvest. Interesting. Okay, anyway, whatever. I'm not doing Ludum Dare right now. Will we make a separate video of the 2023 roadmap? I don't know. Like, we had a roadmap video recently. I don't want to waste too much time, I think, with that. But this is kind of like that. This is the first Game Engine series episode of the year, so we'll kind of discuss our plans a little bit. That's what I'm doing right now. But yeah, like, I don't really want to lay out the year too much because, like, I don't know how it's going to play out. You know, the plan is to basically make this game and everything that is required as part of it, such as text rendering. And then we're going to, once that's done and basically operational, we'll probably have a choice. We either work on like the runtime a little bit so that we can like kind of almost distribute this. Well, by distribute it, I mean really we can run it without the editor at all. So it's like, yeah, I guess we can kind of share that game just because that would be a good test of that feature, obviously. And then we can probably move to Vulkan. And I think, yeah, we can probably talk more about the asset system and kind of follow that path after that. Making a game without undo redo is going to be painful. Oh, no, that's not true at all. Hazel 3D still doesn't have undo redo. We made several games, and they're like, you know, 3D games. So it's actually not that bad. It's definitely like not the best. But yeah, like it's not as bad as it sounds, I think. Am I still planning to do a video about the render thread? Yeah, I will. I got a lot of videos to make and not much time, so. But yeah. Yeah, audio is a good point actually. Maybe we want to do some kind of audio system before we do like runtime and stuff like that, because obviously the game without audio is going to be a bit weird. So yeah, audio might be important. So I want to kind of let's maybe add like a little to-do here. And I just want to write some things here that we'll need. So text rendering, audio. So these are like some features that we basically don't have. Just so that we know like roughly what we need. So text rendering and audio. Can I think of anything else at the moment? Yeah, like there's going to be little things obviously here and there, but those are probably the major things we want. We probably want to be able to like transition, like scene transitions. So actually no, we'll need to, because we're going to hand make these levels, aren't we? So yeah, we probably will need to like be able to transition scenes. You know, so that we can go from like one scene to the next. because we're going to have to switch from like, you know, the current level to the next level, and then we're also going to have to, you know, go from like the main menu to the game and stuff like that, I think. That should be pretty easy though. And yeah, like, the asset system as part of this is probably going to be important as well. 2D joints. Yeah, so like, that's probably also not bad to have as part of like, I guess this is kind of like in the backlog at the moment, but joints, constraints, and other stuff that Box 2D supports will probably have to like basically have like, yeah, more physics features. Because yeah, part of it was going to be like, you know, like maybe you can't just arbitrarily place blocks down that will just stay in the air like that. They have to be like, you know, they have to be like connected to fixed points in the map. So like, for example, there could be like, I'll call this anchor. There might be like an anchor that might just be like, you know, let's just say a circle. Like there might, you know, there might be like something like this, where you just have like, well, it's pretty small, but you just have like, you know, these points, and you can kind of attach, you know, things to those points. And that way you can build out the level. So that's kind of a few of the features we probably need. Yeah, parenting in these, yes, we probably don't need that. Like, I'm sure we could kind of make the game without that. But yes, like parenting is not that difficult to do. Is that even part of this? We'll just add that here. But yeah, we might, like, we'll think about it. We might, yeah. Things that aren't vital, like I don't really want to, like obviously I don't want to ever be in a position where I have to have an elaborate workaround in order to achieve something for this game. But like I don't think I will be in that situation, because so like for example, like, you know, with parenting, like I could probably think of ways to just avoid that. Like you could almost manually handle that if you wanted to in the C#, and that wouldn't be too much effort. Like I wouldn't probably consider for this game that would be too much effort. But then because if everything's a physics object anyway, like, well, not everything's going to be probably a dynamic physics object, but if everything's a dynamic physics object, let's just say, then parenting doesn't really apply. So that should be okay. But I mean, like, it might for joints and stuff, I guess. But aside from that, like, that's probably okay. But obviously things like text rendering and audio, like, you can't, like, there's no workaround for audio. I mean, I guess you could say it's kind of like a BYO, like audio, BYO soundtrack situation. So like you're expected to like just play some music in the background yourself. Play your favorite music. We put no music into this game so that you could choose what you wanted to use. A bit brighter. All right, so collision layers, probably not. Okay, so anyway, so let's make like, I don't know, some region here. Like, let's make this like green. So basically, I think in Armadillo Run, they had that like, they had like a blue kind of thing where you had to get to. So let's make ours maybe green. And we can make this like, you know, some kind of like, you have to get here. This is like the goal of the level is to like get here. I don't know why I decided to make this so big. Let's make it a bit smaller. Let's put this like here. Let's maybe make this a bit smaller. Looks a bit off. Shouldn't have done that probably. It's all quite rough here. All right. Okay, so you have to get to this guy. Okay, so the thing is, in the game though, there has to be 2 modes. There actually has to be basically a play button built into the game's interface, right? Because the idea is, I don't know, like maybe this game was not the best idea because we've almost planned, like the game basically has to come with an editor, which is pretty funny. Like, we basically have to like create an editor for this game, which is actually kind of funny, but also like we'll definitely test out a bit of the... It'd be funny if the game had like undo redo, but then like Hazel doesn't. Wouldn't that be funny? That would be hilarious. Maybe I should do that. But basically, like when you hit play, I guess it's not supposed to play the physics simulation yet. Like we can't do that. So what we kind of need to do is we probably need to make sure that this guy is like just frozen or something. Like we can have its position, but when we hit play, like I don't know, other physics things could probably... Well, yeah, I guess actually the whole physics world needs to basically be stopped and started on, like, you need to be able to, it should be stopped initially and then you can start it, like, on demand, I guess, when you press play within this game, right? Because the first thing is, it's like an editor, you block everything out. It's almost like Hazel in like, in terms of, like, you know, you place all your blocks around, then you hit play and it starts. Like, that's literally what it is. So, what that means is let's like open up the script, because that's actually an interesting use case. Like, you know, being able to stop physics kind of, but I don't know if I want to stop physics. Well, to be honest, like we could probably, I mean, I wonder if we could just switch this from a static to a dynamic rigid body. Because I don't know if I want to stop physics, because there might be some things that it'd be cool to have them sway and stuff, you know? But can I just switch player? Like, can I just make the player a dynamic rigid body, like halfway through, you know? And like I don't know like how that's gonna work, because if I just take a look at, just move this over here. If I take a look at how Box 2D works, then on Physics 2D start, we'll go through and create stuff for every rigid body component, but oh, okay, and the type here is going to return either static or dynamic body. But what happens if I change that at runtime? Can I change that at runtime in Box 2D? Yeah, set type. Okay. Alright, so then what that means is, let me just save this, because I'm about to nuke this. Let's go to like the C#, I guess, and let's just make a little rigid body. Set type. And let's see. Rigid body. Yeah, so this is the body type. So this should probably be brought out of here because we're going to need that elsewhere. Let's make a little inside Hazel source. Do we have a physics directory? No. How do we not have a physics directory? Okay, let's make a physics directory. We'll call this physics 2D. gonna kind of need to include box2D for this, which actually might be a deal breaker. Oh, will it? Probably won't be. No, I'll probably be right. All right. And this, where's this at? Components. Scene maybe. Components. Okay. If we just include this file in script glue like I wanted to, we shouldn't need to worry too much about anything. Where was that used? What's the function called? I might actually call this utils. I like to put stuff, like I like to put pretty much all conversion functions into a utils namespace. I don't know why. I just feel like I do. Because that way you can easily find all the conversion utilities under that namespace, I guess. That's probably why. Okay, so let's grab that include. Let's pop it into script glue. And then we can just do utils, see, rigid body 2D type to box 2D body type, and we just do that. And that's the type, and that's done. Okay, so now we can change the type. I guess we should also do like a little get type. We might as well, right? Which will return, I guess, this. Oh, what have I done? We don't have a conversion the other way around, but we will in a minute. Okay. Stop fighting with me, Visual Studio. So I guess static 0. Alright. So from is that what it's called? Get body type? Oh, it's just get type. Yeah, sure. Okay, so get type gets us okay, I need to probably mirror that enum